Hello and welcome to our North Church Parent Podcast. We are so glad that you have joined us today. My name is Christian Velez and I am our student pastor here at North Church. Our goal is to prepare you and equip you with resources for raising awesome godly kids. Whether they're newborns or off to college, we want to do our best to prepare you for the journey ahead. We hope and pray that these conversations will prepare you to be the parent that God created you to be. If there is any topic you would love for us to discuss, please email us at parents@north.church. We would love to hear from you. Also, go ahead and subscribe to our channel wherever you're listening, as we will continue to release more and more episodes. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Let's jump into the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us for the North Church Parent Podcast. We're so glad that you have joined us. Now, this is different. This is a bonus episode that we have for you. We had a great conversation with Terry and Kathy 2 weeks ago that I want you to listen. So I want you to go back wherever you're listening to. Also, I want you to subscribe to this channel. The whole goal for this is to partner with you parents and help you navigate difficult conversations and help you raise your children in a godly home. So we have the honor to have Taryn with us. Taryn, tell everyone watching or listening a little bit about you, what you have done, and what you do for a living.
Okay, my name is Taryn. I'm the oldest of the 6 Alford kids. I always tell people there's different versions of my face walking around this church. Right now, I'm the director of health and wellness for a commercial real estate company. I played basketball in college. That was a pretty big deal for me in my life. And yeah.
Now, Terry.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about you. Maybe people have not watched the first episode.
Okay.
What you do, a little bit about your family, your amazing wife.
Okay. I'm tall Terry, and I say tall Terry because I'm 6'6", so people tend to remember my name when I say tall Terry. My loving wife is Kathy. She is my college sweetheart. For the record, I pursued her for 2 years before she slowed down and she said, okay, you got me. And we have 6 kids, and I'm actually in broadcasting, and I've been doing that now for 30 plus years or whatever. And I'm her dad, and she's named after me. So my name is Terrence, but it's without the CE. So Kathy gave me the honor to name her Terran. So sometimes they call her Terrence and they call me Taryn, but it's all the same.
So how did you get that honor? Because I'm trying to get my wife to name my children after me. And she's like, we're not naming any of our boys Christian.
Yeah.
Like, it's an amazing name.
Yeah. I think I was so excited to have our first child and for it to be a daughter. I grew up with all boys. And I was just like, I remember holding her up and saying, I have a child. And then I turned to Kathy, may I name her, please? And but someone else kind of helped us with the idea when I found out Taryn. I was like, oh, I never thought about that. We'll use that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, all of the names that I have, we don't even have children, or we were planning on having them. But I always like, can we name our kids this? And she's like, no. So I'm 0 for like 150. Anyway, so hey, we have Christian in our control center, and he's going to kick us off and ask an icebreaker question.
Okay.
All right, Taryn, I'm going to start us off with a little fun one here. I noticed you were Conference USA Freshman of the Week in 2011 and 2012, also Conference USA Honor Roll as well. And I'm just curious, in your prime back then versus your brothers Zach now and Julian now, who is winning in a one-on-one match? Okay, you in your prime and them now, who's winning?
The answer is you.
I'm beating Zach. I say that because now he's taller than me. And once he reached like taller than me, then I was like, I'm done playing. So it's all dubs in my past.
Oh, so good. So you tell me about a little bit your experience in college and playing basketball at a high level.
I always tell people it was a dream of mine that you cannot pay me to live twice.
You have said that a lot. I've heard you saying that before.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a shock because I grew up homeschooled, and it's like whenever I went to this university, I didn't realize how much I hadn't been exposed to until I got there. But I also realized like I had a solid foundation. I just, I didn't
That's
realize how
awesome, because that's
sheltered
what
I
we're
was.
talking about. I interviewed your parents about how to raise godly children, and we want to hear your perspective. But before we get there, we have a video we want to show you guys. Listen, I was part of this party. I was honored to be invited to the Alford's Christmas party, and if your parties don't look like this, don't invite me. I just don't want to go. First, Kathy, your mom, she was cooking, and I think she cooked the entire night. More food just kept going out. I was like, oh my goodness. It was and I had so much fun. And I want everyone to have the opportunity to watch this video. My goodness, that was the most fun I've had in a Christmas party. I mean, you guys were incredible hosts. All of the kids. Yeah. And then I see Terry putting up lights, sound equipment. I mean, he had a sound bar. I'm like, a sound system. I'm like, he's like working with everything. I'm like, what household am I in? This guy you went all out. Is this how you normally go to all the parties?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for the kids. That was for the kids. And I love audio equipment like these microphones. I'm looking at them, so I'm the sound guy.
I have to say our karaoke machine broke, and it was just like a tiny little karaoke machine. And so we gave our dad the task of replacing it, and he came home with a PA system. So he came home with the huge speakers, a soundboard, and all that.
I was just so impressed in that party with everything. But you guys dance. You guys rehearse a dance. Is this like a thing that you guys do every year?
No, it's not. We saw that. I don't know why we ended up doing it.
All of the kids. All of them. I was like,
I don't.
But we practiced, and that was the night the show went on. So.
One of the things that I love about you guys is in your family is how much fun you guys have together as a family, as siblings. I mean, you guys are in a text thread, and you guys text a lot. And I love to see that. And I want to ask you, what did your mom and dad did to cultivate that relationship between you and your siblings? I'm sure that has been different. Your siblings, you guys probably still fight a lot, but what did they do right?
I can't say what they did right. I will say that growing up, honestly, there's a little bit of an age gap between me and the second oldest. There's 5 years, and then the rest are 2 years apart. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, I felt like me with a bunch of little kids. But I think like the older we got to experience other kind of like difficult and also healthy family dynamics. And it kind of like it made us realize what we have access to. And then our priorities kind of shifted, and we came back, like our mom's always encouraging us, even when we're outside the house, like don't always, defend your siblings, be there for each other. And so, I mean, she just always kind of pulled us back, even when we didn't realize like we had drifted, like we feel the rope kind of pulling us back to how we were raised. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Now, Terry, how did you and Kathy intentionally cultivate it? Because we talked about you guys come from broken homes.
Yes, sir.
And you probably didn't experience that at the house. Mm-hmm. What did you guys do to make sure, hey, I want my children to love each other, to like each other, to be able to spend time with one another? How did you guys did that?
I think it was a part of being transparent and learning, putting God in the center and submitting to that, and understanding that we're not perfect. We may not have some past examples, for us, but and knowing that we're work in progress. But as we surrender to that and build the family dynamics from there, it just made it a beautiful situation.
That's awesome. I want to say, man, I just love seeing you guys. When you guys are all together, it's just a party. It is a party. 2 weeks ago, we were at a birthday party, and how'd you guys celebrated gifts? I mean, it's like, this is a 8-year-old girl, and it's opening a card, and all of you guys are like, whoa! Like, it was the biggest deal ever. And I just love that. I remember going home that night and telling my wife, babe, this is how we're raising our children. They're going to cheer one another. They're going to have fun. I mean, you guys were dancing. It was just awesome. Now, Taryn, the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, children, obey your parents. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Taryn, will you talk about how was obedience at home? How do they teach you about obedience and respect and obeying your parents? Tell me about that a little bit.
Of course, we always grew to know that, I guess, sin has consequences. So, I mean, our parents, my mom and my dad, there was never like any shame. And even whenever we did make a mistake, it was never like I told you so. You sit in your mistake. It was always presented with grace, and it kind of filled with a love, like, I want better for you. I think the older I got, especially in college, I realized like those rules and those boundaries like is where I'm safest in. And so I kind of saw the purpose in the boundaries and the purpose, even sometimes in discipline, even though it's not fun. So yeah.
The scripture that we have based this podcast, it's where in Psalms is it, in Proverbs, train your child in the way that he should go, and even when he's old, he will never depart from it. And I can see that, where you probably have a closer relationship with God now than you probably did in the past. Tell me about at home. How was your childhood? How was your parents were teaching you biblical principle? We already talked about your dad, and I want to encourage you, if you have not listened to that interview, you need to go back and listen to the interview with Terry and Kathy. So tell me about that.
Well, we always had like family Bible studies. We always would watch sermons. Honestly, whenever you're younger and mom's reading for the Bible, it was a little bit boring. But then like I said, the older I got, the more experience we got to have with life. Like we realized like, oh, the Bible is applicable to today. The Bible is a compass that we can go to because there's so much like just coming at you that are just like opinions. And so we realized like the truth is the foundation going forward. Of course, like now we kind of found like the cool pastors that are still preaching like solid word. But yeah, it's never changed.
You know, growing up, I remember on the way to school, every morning, my mom made one of us pray. And I remember it was like pulling teeth. Like we didn't want to pray. She would be like, okay, Christian, your turn. Okay, G, your turn. Francis, your turn. But I'll say it was that consistency of like, then now I'm on the car, and that's probably where I have some of the best prayer. And I'm sure it has to do with like how I grew up, that we got to pray in the car every day. But now when I'm driving to places, I'm just talking to God and praying. So when did you feel like when you're a kid, you go to your parents a lot for, hey, mom, dad, what does this mean? What is God? What is sin? What is this? When did your walk with God became your own and not your parents'?
My mom and my dad, they always told us, you don't go to heaven on your parents' faith. Like that's something my parents have always told us. When I was 10, I gave my life to Christ at Camp Dry Gulch, summer camp. But really like my walk started becoming my walk in college because I moved away from home. I got to experience life where there was no one telling me to go to church. But I also realized just like how crazy and lost I would be in life if I didn't have that still foundation to like draw to. And of course, like in college, I couldn't attend church every Sunday. But that was a rule in our house. Like Sundays we're going to church. And so whenever I could, I definitely did. So
that's awesome that you say that it's that for your house, going to church was so important. We seen in younger kids and teenagers then when the dad is not in church, their faith, they don't really follow Jesus like households where the dad is in church. And it's actually teaching the children the house of the Lord is important.
Yeah.
Being in the presence of God is important. And we see that so often where there is not a dad or a mom that they don't go to church, and just the kid, they come for a little while, but then as they continue to grow up, it's just they come less and less and less. I love that you guys said that. Now, Terry, tell me how to prepare your children for that moment of, this is your faith. You cannot live off what I believe and the things that I've done. Talk to me about how you train your children for that.
I think you're always helping them navigate, even being young and from the first day dropping them off to kindergarten or something like that. One time I remember I can't remember if it was Hope, taking her to school, and she was experiencing anxiety. And then even there, just taking the opportunity to talk to her about it and talk her faith into her and let her understand that, well, God is with you, and, don't be afraid. They need to know who you are as well. And then for her to come home and then to share those experiences. So I would just say constantly helping them to navigate and understanding their faith and applying it at every opportunity.
One of the things that I say often to parents is like, when you are, of course, I'm not a parent, I'm a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
So I help students grow spiritually. One of the things I always tell parents is like, you have to see yourself like a coach. You got to come alongside them, just like you're talking, like if they're experiencing anxiety, if they're experiencing fear or any kind of struggle, like come alongside them and help them walk through it. Mm-hmm. Don't just tell them what they need to do, because they need to experience that tension. Mm-hmm. They need to experience fear so they know how to deal with fear. And I feel like a lot of parents, a lot of times they try to protect their kids so much that then when they go to what we call the real world, when it's outside of the house, they're not equipped for it. What would you tell to a mom and a dad that it's probably experiencing that, like, I want to protect my children, I don't want them to go through what I went through, but how can I train them to be able to have a faith of their own?
Just by making it applicable to yourself, and even if they have a question and they don't understand, just because you're the parent, you're the adult, and you don't have the answer, so you would mask it. I would just say, hey, let's pursue it together. Let's sit down. I don't have that answer, but let's pursue the answers together. Let's see what it says in the Word. And that way that child will see that you as a dad, you're vulnerable and you're depending on the Word as the foundation.
I have a question for you, Taryn. I grew up in a broken home. I didn't have a dad that went to church. I want you to talk to me about your experience seeing a godly father at home. How has that prepared you? And how do you see your relationship with Jesus because of it? The reason why I ask is I want to encourage men and parents, fathers, to be present, to talk to their kids about their faith, because when I see you, I can see, well, you can clearly see that it was because of what Terry and Kathy have done in you guys. So how much did that impact your life?
It impacted my life so much. Even to this day, like walking through singleness, like my dad has set the standard. Like it just kind of showed me that my dad as my protector, well, the Bible says that God is my father. So that means God is my heavenly protector. That means he sees more than just me in Oklahoma City. Like he sees everything in the future, past and present. So I think everything that, like all the positive characteristics that he exude, that also kind of drew me to who God is, just on a grander scheme. I think the Bible even talks about, like, if, a parent loves you, then like how much more does God love you, who gave his son to like die for you. And so it just kind of like amplified like who God is as a father. And it made it like so just like relatable, because I know like my dad loves me a lot, even when I, make mistakes, or even when I don't love myself. He always sees like my potential, and he's always been like constant. I know there's no mistake that's too big that I can't go to him for. I mean, even in college, when I thought like after my freshman year, I'm about to get cut, like, what am I going to do? And I didn't realize I had wrapped my identity in that. And then I talked to my parents, and I remember my dad saying like, you could quit. Like, even if you don't get cut, like, you could quit and come home and we'll just figure it out. Like, it's not about that. And because of that, like, that just made me want to make them proud of me, even though they already are. Like, that was kind of the motivation I needed. I never had like them just like counting on me and pushing me. Like, I wanted to make them proud because I knew like it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. So
thank you so much for sharing that. But if you're a dad, I want to encourage you to really be present in your kid's life. And if you don't know much about God and you're trying to figure out yourself, don't be afraid to tell your children. But I grew up in a single family home with my mom. I didn't have that father figure. But I'll say that the thing that helped me a lot was that we were in church every single week. And there was men in that community that I look up to. And I said, I want to be like him. And then I will see parents. And now I see your family. It's like, I want to be parents like them. So if you're a single mom and you don't have that at home, I want to encourage you that to be part of a community, in a godly community that can help you raise your children in a godly way, that can raise your boys to respect women, to protect, to provide, and make sure that if you're a single mom, that your children have a mentor in their life. So I'm going to toss it to Christian. He has one of our final questions.
All right. I want to ask you, this is for both of y'all. One for Taryn. What is something you would have told your younger self as a child being raised up about your parents maybe, or something, just a word of encouragement? And then for you, Mr. Terry, what is something you would have told your younger self as a parent? Maybe a piece of advice, something like that. What's something y'all would have told your younger selves?
I would say that your parents are wiser than you realize. And you're more blessed than you realize.
I would say if you come from a broken situation, don't pursue it like you're trying to understand the hurt and the pain. Just understand the value that you have. Just like I shared with Taryn when she was talking about afraid of being cut. And then one of the things that I emphasized to her, I said, your worth and value is not in you being a basketball player. Yeah. So you're much bigger than that. So if you want to just wrap it up, pack your stuff, and come on home so we don't have to drive those 8 hours anymore, come on home. So I would say the same thing for any young man on the path of being a father, and honoring women also in relationships. That was another thing that was not taught to me. How you are to honor that female that you are pursuing and be respectful. So that's another thing too, that when you run with the wolves, they don't teach you that. Don't run with the wolves.
That is so good. Well, thank you so much, guys, for your time, for blessing us with this conversation. And I want to say one more time, I admire you guys. And I know that people in our community look at you guys and see like, I want to have that kind of family. So if you're new watching to our podcast, I want to encourage you to subscribe. We release a new episode the first Wednesday of every month. And from time to time, we're going to have a great bonus episode like this one. Thank you so much for joining us.